Yep.
So now I'm like, do I eat big in the morning, or do I just eat something little and bring something like an energy bar with me?
Sure. No.
We're not used to getting up, eating, and coming here and we start.
Yeah.
So that's my thing.
Certainly.
We're doing Princess in
Mm-hmm.
February.
Yeah.
So that, if you have to get up so early
Yep.
for that, and then wait around.
Well, you bring up probably the most important question, because as you just heard, you're not the only one that's enduring that. The sweet number is 2 hours before the start of the race. So like if you take any of the Disney events where they corral you, you've got to be there at 3 in the morning for a 6 a.m. start, literally. You've got to think about staging your meals. And that's where I would encourage you to train it. Like for example, just pulling something off the cuff. And you and I need to talk about this differently, okay? But like take some hard-boiled eggs and literally take them all the way up to, like you're saying, you have to drive in. When you get there, you're essentially going to eat breakfast again. It's going to have to be convenient. Have an egg, a banana, you're essentially emulating that 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. breakfast at roughly 4:30, 5 o'clock for a 6:30 start, okay? That's where you kind of, it's baptism by fire. If you think you're going to do hard-boiled eggs and a banana, and you know that's going to be the last thing you put in your mouth 90 minutes before the race, try to do it before you come here. And then it's 2 stages. Then you go to your 2 a.m. meal. What would it look like? Eggs, pancakes, some fruit. Again, don't get hung up on the specificity of it. What works, and know that you're going to do that at 2:33. Hit it again at 5. Start the race by 7, and then off you go. Because now there's females in the crowd. Get over the sensitivity of the subject, guys. It's what we do. Okay, go to Target and get those little packages of wet wipes. Okay, because when you go to these races, there's 12,000 people all trying to get into the portalets. Okay, no matter how good they are, they always run out of toilet paper. And I don't know about you, not being rude, but the toilet paper is pretty useless. It's in there anyways. Okay, wet wipes, they're hygiene-wise, it's easy. Especially if you guys, any of the women have little ones still at home, grab a ton of those and put them in little 1-ounce baggies. Because you can put those inside your running shorts. Or you could put them in your fanny packs, because it's another mental situation that you don't want to deal with. Not being rude, but there's always wood somewhere. Worst case scenario. And if you've never done a race before, you're thinking, I would never do that. Talk to me after the race and tell me if you did it. Exactly. That's it. When nature calls, you answer. Yeah. But the worst part of Well, and that's exactly the point, because once you've been to a venue, because like the first year they did Disney, okay, I was there as a coach, and it was amazing, because they have that long corral before you walk to the start. It was amazing how you look to your left and look to your right, and it looked like a bunch of dwarfs in the woods, because everyone's over there. And I'm not, no joke, there's 3 women and a guy, and there's 3 women and a guy. It's like, hey, what's up, I know that's a bad visual, but the idea there is, it's like your pride's gone. It's like, man, you're nervous about the race, and you're like, you know what? I'm just looking forward. There's nobody here but me, But if you've got your wet wipes and things like that, it makes life easier, which then goes back to the strategy of the food, okay? Because you just don't know between the nerves and everything else. I always like to say, pack like a mule, in your car, or if you're going to stay at the venue, just have everything. Everything you think I always say this, if you've ever desired something in training, have it available, because it's better to have it and not want it than want it and not have it. Before we had energy bars, Fig Newtons were the thing that endurance athletes lived by. I mean, who makes them? Nabisco. You buy them in the sleeves. And so it was one of those situations where people would be like, oh, I'm never going to eat those. Yeah, talk to me when you've bonked. You'll pay $1,000 for one Fig Newton. I mean, they become a staple. My point in that is you may have craved Fig Newtons on week number 2. That's why I'm asking you to keep very copious notes, because you just don't know what you're going to crave the day of the race, the morning of the race. What sounds good? You've been eating the same thing for 12 weeks, and now the idea of eating this the race day morning is nauseating, literally. It's nice to have a portfolio of options. You go, let's say you're staying there and you open up that refrigerator, there's essentially 5 breakfast menus available for you. What you're going to eat the morning of on the way to the race. The more options you have, remember what we said, your blueprint has to be geared towards what works. That puts you in a mindset of, this is nothing, it's just another day of training. If you just have another hurdle, gosh, I forgot my eggs. Oh gosh, I forgot my heart rate. It's just, now you're all on the right side, negative, 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 negative. And now you've got to improvise, and no one's got the energy for that. You're essentially just want to get from point A to point B and enjoy it. But as soon as there's a detour to the left, raise your hand if this is your first race, half or full, period. Okay, so you don't know what to expect. You hear everybody talking about it, and you're like for the marathon, you'll hear it gets rough at 16, you hit another wall around 20, 23 is a different chapter, okay? That's like whatever, okay? Until you go out and do it. And that's where experience is priceless, but that's to me where training is invaluable. If you've trained with specific intensities and durations, then the race isn't as intimidating, okay? That's where you have a leg up. You know, for some people, they just think, oh, I'm just going to wing it and go, and they're the ones that hate running afterwards. They're usually the one and done crowd. They're like, I'm never doing that again. And it's mainly because their race day strategy is what shot them in the foot, not because they weren't in shape. And I want you guys to understand that. Let's just be negative for just a moment. If you have a bad race, more than likely it's because something changed, okay? Guys, close your ears and act like I'm not talking to you for a moment. Women, look at your menstrual cycle. If you think there's a chance it's going to start from the day of or the week of, you've got to get your iron up with real food, okay? Because if you start the race already anemic, your ability to carry oxygen obviously is diminished, and that's just going to make your run that much harder, okay? And again, it's one of those morning things like, I didn't know this was coming. Well, I'm telling you to go look at it and figure it out, okay? Just being honest, because it's one of those morning wake-up calls. You're like, seriously? Are you kidding me? And you know what stress will do. Sometimes that'll bring it on. Sometimes it'll delay it. You know your body better than anybody else. Figure it out. It's got to be on your strategy. You know, I'm not trying to be rude or embarrass anybody, but these are all things that we get the phone calls the morning of, like, I didn't know this was coming. And now they're thinking, well, what do I do? And I don't need to get specific. You know, now the whole variables change, okay? And now it's another little negative bird in the back of your head going, oof, I don't know about this. And then first thing is what? I don't know if I should do the race. That's the thought I don't want to cross your mind. I want you to be so excited about doing this race. You know, you will have a great race if you follow your strategies. The last thing I'll say is you've got to look at the negative side of your sheet very, very closely, particularly when it involves people. Because if there's somebody that shouldn't be going to the race, don't take them. That's hard, because a lot of times it's some of the people that are closest to you. You know, for young athletes, a lot of times it's your mom and dad. They're your worst enemy. Just being honest, because we as parents want to live vicariously through our kids. You're faster than that. Well, that's all I had, Mom. That's all I had, Dad. So you don't be afraid to fire your best friend. Don't be afraid to fire your better half. If they're negative and pessimistic, they're complaining, because I always love how tough it is for a spectator on race day. You think that the world's coming to an end because it's 4:30 in the morning and they have to get up. You're like, dude, you want my running shoes? You go run for 5 hours. Tell me how hard the morning's, you know. So won't belabor the issue there. But I'll hang around if you guys have any questions. But you guys are going to have a great race. I can tell you guys look like you've got your stuff together. I appreciate you guys paying attention. You bought heart rate monitors. You know, we'll figure out sweat rate. You know, you've got the tools to put it together. Now just have fun with it. Just take a deep breath and relax.
Last time you said we need to have a scale-based spring.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Too hard on this. Semiconductor scale.
Well, they're getting better. I will say that. You know, when they first came out, the margin of error was enormous, and they are getting much better.
You're looking for a difference between two. So
Yes, sir.
accurate.
That's the key. As long as it's a consistent measurement and you have it on a consistent surface, you know, we've been actually doing some anecdotal evidence on some of those as well, because I think there's some credibility to them if they can tighten up the technology. But the problem is they're $400, $500, $600 for a good one. You know, it's like I get asked all the time, what's the best way to evaluate body fat? Well, it's submersion. You know, if you got to a clinical setting like UCF has one, well, who's going to pay $400 or $500 to be submerged to figure out? So if our margin of error using calipers or tape measures is 1%, but it's always the same measurement protocol, at least you know it's accurate for you, you know? So I apologize if I sounded harsh on the digitals. It's just historically they haven't been very good.
I don't have it. I have a digital one. I don't know.
Yeah, use the digital one.
To get an accurate one, I need to get a regular scale.
Well, like you're saying, as long as it's a consistent tool that you're using the same one, if you don't mind taking it from the house and bringing it out to your car and then back kind of a thing, then you're golden. He's got a lot of questions on sweat rate, so that's you're welcome. Appreciate it.